And we are live. Hello and welcome back to the Business Octopus. How you going, Amanda?
Fabulous. And yourself, Avon?
Not too bad. I've been a good boy lately, and I've gotten a habit of going for a bike ride in the morning. And
Nice.
I'm pleased that I have a positive habit. And like now that we live in this new area, there's lots of hills. It's really interesting. So it's better than just before it was a bit flat and boring. So now I'm motivated to ride. Anyway, side note,
Very
back
good.
to the point
No,
at
that's
hand.
awesome. That's awesome. New habits are great. Well done, sir.
Yes. Well, I do think it slightly ties into our topic for the day, and that is
Yeah,
getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Now,
indeed. Yes.
the fitness example is being uncomfortable or, sweating, working, doing hard work and getting sore muscles is actually really good for you. And the long-term effects of exercise, yes, you're uncomfortable maybe for that half hour, whatever hour, however long you train. But the reality is you can move better, you're more flexible, you have better health and strength and more focus as opposed to others who are sitting on the couch doing nothing. So to, to translate that to our business perspective, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, what we really want to sort of dig into is at the moment, you were saying people are cutting back on spending. We've got, issues in the with oil and Iran and the conflict with the US. And so the uncomfortability that comes in the short term is the fact that you're not making the sales. But the uncomfortability that will come if, yes, all of a sudden it's quiet. So you go, oh, I've got more time to do this, so more time to do that. And you feel a little bit more relaxed because you don't have that time pressure of all of the clients wanting everything yesterday.
Uh-huh. But
Double-edged
that's
sword.
the danger zone, right? Don't,
Exactly.
yeah. That is not the time to go to sleep, my friends.
In fact, it's a sign that you need to get uncomfortable. So I guess, like we look at everybody looks at and kind of hates on the bigger companies like, Oracle fired 30,000 people and, Deloitte probably fired 10% of their workforce. Same with Salesforce, same with this, same with that. But the reality is they're making that shift or the adjustment that they need to make in order to stay alive. And yes, in that company or those sorts of companies, there's a bit more, playing the share market and that sort of thing. But they have big systems. They have multiple accountants and professionals keeping an eye on so many things, and they're reacting based on, data, and they're making decisions. And they're probably making more intensive decisions than any small business owner would. And I think today we're targeting that small business owner who maybe is sitting on their hands waiting for it to get better.
Yes. And that is not a strategy, folks. So time to get uncomfortable. So in order to get uncomfortable, the first thing you need to do is get back on the tools. And this is what Avon and I were talking about a little bit earlier. So looking at your current resourcing and deciding where you can slot back in to either save time, money, and bring back some of those expenses. Avon, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's, something you can cut, something that it could be an expense. It could be, you're going out. It's like your own personal budgets, right? So you want to save for a house, you stop going out for coffee and, dumb things, or, you need to tighten the belt and be more efficient. And I think sometimes businesses go, yes, we're going to do this initiative and we're going to do that thing. Sometimes you've got to make some hard calls and, cut projects that aren't going to deliver, an outcome for a period of time. Now, ideally, the best time to plan was 10 years ago.
Yes.
So, like if you had the budget and you go, yes, I'm going to build this product or this service, you need to try and do it really, really efficiently because you're building for the outcome that will happen in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But if anything has told us in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, we've had a lot of tumultuous activity being, we had COVID, we had, after that, there was like a bit of the AI change and shift.
Yes, absolutely.
And now we've got, there's conflict over in Iran and in the Middle East. And so all of this is just this bumpy roller coaster, which feels like it's getting really bumpy at the moment. And you've got so many business owners that are coasting along going, it's all right. I'll just keep spending. I'll just keep going. I think it'll be all right. And then they do themselves more harm than good, because yes, your income goes down, but they keep their fixed costs the same instead of trying to cut them to save that budget. Because the sooner you recognize here is the trouble period where we need to kind of cut back, then the sooner you will sort of maintain some of that capital instead of pouring it into, sort of hoping, like, small businesses don't have the cash reserves like big businesses. They don't have,
Exactly.
$1 trillion sitting in a what do they call it? A term deposit. Yeah. So, like Google does, right? So they know that they're going to get disrupted. And so they saved up like 3 to 5 years worth of cash to continue running their business should the worst thing occur.
Exactly. But as small businesses, we don't often have that luxury.
Well, they've also got the share market, so they can get capital from that. And so all they're doing is playing with other people's money. So there's and again, yes, we don't have that luxury, and you don't want to reinforce failure. You don't want to send good dollars after bad, trying to turn something around that's not actually turning around.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges that you've seen about the I guess, budget constraints, and like what are people doing that you've seen to cut back on cost?
Yeah, so I think the biggest conversations I've been having lately is, like I said earlier, getting, owner founder back on the tools. So maybe looking at what resources we have in terms of bums on seats. So the humans we have in the organization, do we have any contractors? Do we have any team members where we could be taking over some of their workload or their entire workload in order to get us through particularly difficult periods? We've said this before on the show, look at your subscriptions. Like, what are you using? If you're not auditing those things every 3 months, I guarantee you've signed up for something that you needed for a one-off thing, or you forgot about, all of those types of things. So looking at your subscriptions, and just, are there, like Avon was saying just before, are there projects or things that we've been pouring cash or time into that aren't getting us the ROI that we need? And maybe they're not part of our long-term game plan that we can pull back on as well. So another conversation I had recently was advertising. So just not turning off the tap completely, but just bringing it down so that we're still visible, but just reallocating that cash to another job in the business, if you like.
Yeah. Well, another one is, do the uncomfortable things that work, but you've delegated out. Like, again, stepping in yourself as the owner, getting on the tools. One of that might be, just hit the phones and start calling. No one likes cold calling, but if you know that it works, then do it. Like you generally, as a business owner, try to work yourself out of a job rather than working yourself into. So you do the task long enough until you can delegate it to somebody else. And then once you've delegated and you've stepped back, they take over and you stop doing it. But at some point, you're still the person who's better equipped to do it anyway. So you don't like it. That's why you delegated it. But you may have to go and take it on again, because you either need to get back in the weeds and really understand the things that you've now lost touch with, or you need to get on and, bring that founder energy. People know when they're talking to the boss. I had a conversation the other day. That person I ended up doing a podcast with, coming out soon, but I knew I was on with the founder, and it was just a really good conversation. And particularly in a B2B business, you kind of want to talk to the boss, or sometimes the consumer owner wants to talk to the boss, but not consumer owner, the consumer customer. But I find that it's like, is that Karen just complaining about the foam on her coffee?
It's rarely to give you a compliment, right?
Go get me your manager. Yeah, exactly. But that might be what you have to do. Go take the bins out, go and do the ugly things which you may have been able to give up doing. But unfortunately now you need to just grab it by the horns and own the problem.
Absolutely. And you just need to, where you've got comfortable, you need to manage your time better. You need to manage your energy, your effectiveness, and just sit down, plan it out, and make it happen.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, look, I think it's a pretty annoying time to be in, like waiting for the next client or whatever. At that same token, you don't want to destroy your capability moving forward. So yes, people hold back. Like for a time when we had like COVID, our business pretty much came to a standstill, and I had to go and I went back to the army. I did some work there, and I managed to keep the home fires burning,
Nice.
which meant that my business was still alive. It was still around. It was not. And then when we came back really strong and grew a lot. And so could this be your moment where you need to retain capability? You need to stay alive long enough. You need to get through that short-term pain and to get to through the mud and the blood to the green fields beyond. That's another episode we did a little while ago. So
yes, exactly.
Even though that's the tank regiment's motto. Flag
we
motto.
borrowed it. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered most things for today. We might run along early today. We've got lots to do, calls to make, things to make happen, and we're going to practice what we preach. So in the meantime, if you are in the same boat and you need to make stuff happen, come and talk to us. We've got a supportive group of community members that are looking after each other, because nobody's got your back as a founder, except maybe some other founders, because nobody else really understands the pain that you go through. So
absolutely. Yes. Thanks for joining us today, team, and
you stay classy.